Well, hello, word nerds. What's going on with you today? I hope that you are. I hope this podcast is providing you a little bit of entertainment while you are doing your day to day fun stuff. Because every day it's fun stuff. This is episode F28. I am your host, Spencer Parks, and I think this is a fine place to get the episode started. Why don't we do that? Okay? I don't know. My brain is maybe a little tired this morning. Okay, the first word in this episode is the second form of the word fantasy. Welcome to Fantasy Island. Fantasy. This one is the verb from the 15th century, and the synonym is just the word fantasize. So if you are thinking about the things that you want to be doing in your life, the things that you wish would happen, your fantasies, you are fantasizing, and you could also just say, I'm fantasizing. Fantasizing? Yes, fantasizing. It's that's kind of a funny word. So it's no wonder we went to fantasize instead of fantasy. I am fantasying my future. What is the fantasy that I want to see in my future? Well, I was thinking about this morning because I knew these words were coming up. And there is definitely a part of me, just like a lot of people, who have the fantasy of just wanting to sort of be in the public eye, want to win awards, want to be in movies, acting, directing. You know, that's why LA is so overly saturated with people who want to be actors and directors, because people want this thing. There's a part of me that has that fantasy, right? Right. But I think the more important fantasy, or the big reason why I have that first fantasy, is because I just want to provide entertainment, happiness, enjoyment, joy to people's lives. I want to, whenever possible, leave people with a smile. You know, the grocery store clerk, whatever, when you're having an interaction with somebody, I think we should all be trying to make their life a little bit brighter and lighter instead of bringing it down. I'm all about the positivity and less about the negativity. So that's one big part of it. Just the day-to-day life, the everyday people you see, try and provide them with some happiness and joy and entertainment and laughter. Laughter is a big one. Ha ha ha, this is such a funny section of this show. But then, just take that to the next level, and I just want to be able to help provide some change in this world, some positive change in as big of a scale as possible. That's a fantasy that I don't know will ever come true. It's in my brain. I'm fancying it. Anyway, we all have fantasies. What are your fantasies? I don't need to know about those other fantasies, but what's like your life goal fantasies? That's what it is. Okay, the sound effect today is going to be something like that. Okay, the third form of fantasy is an adjective from 1984. It is of, relating to, or being a game in which participants, or as this says, participants, because it's separated on two lines, where the participants create and manage imaginary teams consisting of players from a particular sport, and scoring is based on the statistical performances of the actual players. It's like you get to feel like you're the coach of a team or a player of a team, but you're not doing nothing. You're just sitting in your underpants on your chair, watching the statistics on the computer machine. The example, of course, is fantasy football. I have never done fantasy football. There are some people at work who do this. There have even in the past been some work-specific fantasy leagues. Sometimes they're for money. Sometimes they're for fun. I get the concept. You choose your team. You're like, I want this kicker from this team, and I want this quarterback from that team because I think they have good statistics. And of course, there are certain players that everybody wants, but sometimes you get unlucky and you get the crappy players. None of them are really that crappy. They're, professional. If you're doing the fantasy professional sports, they're professional players, so they're pretty great. But they're not as good as maybe some of the other players. Some people let the computer decide for them. That's probably what I would do because I don't know nothing about the sports and the statistics and the stuff. In fact, just a couple of days ago, one of my coworkers was like, "Is this something that you guys would be interested?" And I was like, "Well, maybe if I put in like $5 and let the computer decide and I do no work, that sounds okay to me." But other people, I was like, yeah, there's definitely people who would get in on that fantasy football thing. I think there's fantasy other teams, other games, fantasy baseball and hockey and cricket maybe and all those other ones, but you don't hear about that one as much for some reason. It's all about the fantasy football. There was that sitcom show with some people I very much like, Jason Mantzoukas, Paul Scheer, Jean Lajoie. I don't remember the other people in it, but it was called The League, and it was all about fantasy football league. The people who were doing that, I think. I never really watched it, but I really liked them, so it was probably a very funny show. I don't know. It's just such a stereotypical guy thing to do. Clearly, it's not all guys. There are a lot of women or non-gendered people who are interested in this too, but it is very stereotypical guy thing to do. And yeah, I always felt a little bit like, is this something that I should be joining in on? But I don't really care, so no. By the way, 1984. People were doing this way back in 1984. Who invented it? What's the story there? The next word is Fantasyland. Fantasyland. I'm living in a fantasy land. This is a noun from 1967, an imaginary or ideal place or situation. That's where we all want to live, in the fantasy land. You're living in a fantasy land if you think that you can do whatever you want to do and have no consequences. The next word is fantoccini. Fantoccini, yes. Fantoccini. This is a noun from 1771. It is a puppet show. A puppet show using puppets operated by strings or mechanical devices. And then also just such puppets are called the fantoccini. Let's see. This is an Italian word, if you could not tell. Of course, fantoccini. It is the plural of fantoccino, which is the diminutive of fantoccio, which means doll. It's an augmented form of fante, which means child. And of course, we know all children are dolls. They are so cute and don't do anything, and they just sit there quietly and behave very well. That is also from, relatedly, the Latin infant, or infans, which means infant. So you can see a connection. Infans, from the Latin, to fante, the Italian child. Oh, yes, okay. And so what? The puppets are just little kids? Is that what they are? Or is it a show for little kids? But the children are the doll. Yes, it went from child to doll. And puppets are kind of like dolls. But it's also maybe a show for children? I mean, I don't know. Adults can enjoy puppetry too. There are definitely adult puppet shows. But typically they are for the children. This one, did it say? It didn't say whether it's for children or adults, so I think it could be for anybody. And I think we need to post a link in the show notes for this fantoccini. So talk about what kinds of puppets exactly? Strings like marionettes or mechanical devices? I'm not sure what those would be, but this sounds very interesting. I've probably seen examples but didn't know it was called fantoccini. And this is great. And the puppets are also fantoccini. Puppets! Next is Fantod. Fantod. We're watching Scrubs because I had never seen it, and there's a character who's named Todd, and he calls himself the Todd, and he is having a very interesting evolution. Yeah, we'll see where that goes. A character that would not exist, I think, in a sitcom these days. This show is from like 20, 30 years ago. 20? 20-ish. So Fantod is a noun from 1839. Number one is plural. So 1A is a state of irritability and tension. And 1B, the synonym is fidgets. So maybe when you're in a state of irritability and tension and you start to fidget, right? We'd all do the fidgety. I'm trying to see if I have anything here that I can fidget with. Well, I have a marker here. Sometimes I will do this thing with the pens. This one's a little bit hard because it's so big, but I'll do the pen flipping thing. Well, I have an actual pen. That would be easier. Are there any other fidgety things? But I pick at my nails. I really hate this. I've been doing this for so much of my life, and I really try to, the nails and the skin around the nails, that's a fidgety thing that I do. Everybody's got their own little fidgety thing. Here we go. This pen is much easier to do that in. I trained myself to do this in high school. I can't do it with the other hand, though. Because I'm left-handed, I did it there. And, ooh, I kind of did it. It's okay. Not too bad. Fidget. So, if you're in a state of Fantod, you have this tension and need to fidget. Number two is an emotional outburst, and a synonym is fit. Those little kids often have these emotional outbursts. They don't know how to control their emotions yet, so they're just like, they're like the Tasmanian devil. This word, Fantod, is perhaps an alternative of the English dialect word fantique or fatigue. I don't know what either one of those is. Perhaps a blend of fantastic and fatigue. So those got combined to either fantique with a QUE or fatigue with an EEG. That's an odd spelling. And so what is this, that you are so tired, you're fantastically tired? And so you are fidgeting, you're so tired you're having an emotional outburst? And then it became Fantod? This one is blowing my mind. This is so silly and weird, and I don't understand I don't know. Is this one as weird to you as it is to me? 1839. We combined fantastic and fatigue, possibly, and got fantique and fatigue, and then that was all to show the idea of emotional tension and an outburst, and then that got turned to Fantod. Yeah. Okay. Next is fan vault, 2 words, noun from circa 1901. This is a Gothic vault in which the ribs from each springer spread out like the veins of a fan. Fan vaulting is a noun. That building has such nice fan vaulting, where we're in a Gothic vault, and those ribs are spreading so nicely out of the veins of the fan. I feel like I need to see a picture of this. The Notre Dame, I believe, is considered a Gothic cathedral, right? Let's look up fan vault. You know, the things, they just spread out like a fan. Okay. Ooh, this is very interesting and intricate. So basically, these pictures, what I'm seeing is kind of near the columns, I guess, that when they go up to the ceiling, they where they connect with the ceiling, the ornamentation sort of fans out. Yeah, we should put a picture of this fan vault. on the social media at dictionarypod. There's a lot of variations of this fan vault. Here's an architectural image. Ooh, lots of mathy math involved in that. Okay, that was very beautiful. Fan vault. This is a stupid sound effect. Next is fanwise. Adjective or adverb from 1882, and it is in the manner or position of the slats of an open fan. And the example is boats anchored fanwise at the pier. The boats are positioned in such that they are fanned out from the pier. So if you're looking down, if you're the viewer and you're looking down at the boats, they would be positioned like this, right? Oh, and then here's the pier. Okay, fanwise. Can you please position those pencils fanwise and also in rainbow order? And then you just have a fan of pencils in a rainbow. Next is fanzine, Fanzine. Noun from 1942. Way back in 1942, they were making fanzines, which are what? They are a magazine written by and for fans, fanatics. As in, we got a couple examples. A sci-fi fanzine, also a punk rocker with her own fanzine. The fans of the punk rocker are making a whole magazine all dedicated to this one punk rocker, and that's a lot of stuff about one person. I believe, now I did not ever receive this, I didn't know it existed until more recently, but I believe there was a whole fan-made fanzine about Weird Al back in the day, probably in the 90s, and they were, if I remember the story correctly, it was just a group of people who would get together and write some stuff and put in some information and then print it and kind of staple it together, and it was all very homemade, and then they would send it out to the people who were given a little bit of money each month to get their fanzine, which was probably just enough to pay for the physical items that they had to put in all this work together. Ugh, English bad. But yeah, fanzine. I don't know if I ever got involved in any fanzines. I don't think so. Does that mean that I'm not enough of a fan of anything? Or I just didn't feel like it? I don't know. Fanzine. This is clearly a combination of fan and magazine, because it's a magazine for fans of a thing. This is probably not made so much these days. We're not, in a physical form at least. We are still making digital zines. I don't know if they can still be called zines or magazines when they're digital. It's just a blog or something. Anyway, fanzine. Why isn't there a fanzine for the dictionary? That was the last F-A-N word. Here we go with F-A-O. F-A-O, all caps. It is an abbreviation for Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. They could have put a couple more letters in there. F-A-O-U-N. Faun. But no, they wanted to just keep it short and simple. Of course, when I see F-A-O, I can't not think of F-A-O Schwartz, which was that famous big toy store. I think the main one was in New York, but then of course we got them in other places. F.A.O. Schwartz was founded in 1862 in Baltimore under the name Toy Bazaar by German immigrant, here we go, Frederick August Otto Schwartz. And I guess when they changed the name, they were like, well, we could call it Frederick August Otto Schwartz, but that's a lot of words. And so then they just changed it to F.A.O. Schwartz. Since 1862, that is so long ago. Okay, that's where F.A.O. Schwartz That's where the name came from. But this one specifically in the book is the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. And what do? They talk about growing food. Ha! FAQ, first form. Or some people just like to say FAQ, because that's how you would sort of say those letters. This is all caps, first form, noun from 1991. A document, as on a website, that provides answers to a list of typical questions that users might ask regarding a particular subject, as in, check the FAQ. That is, you telling somebody to go check the FAQ. If you have a question about a thing, you got to go check the FAQ. The frequently... Ooh, I'm skipping ahead. Ooh, shut your mouth. Also, a question included in such a document is an FAQ, as in a list of FAQs. And what does this stand for? It stands for frequently asked questions. These are the questions that people have been asking us so many times over and over again, and we're sick of responding to every one of them, so we were like, let's just put them all in a document. Here are all the questions that you might ask. If your question is not part of this list of FAQ, then please send us a message. But more than likely, the majority of your questions will be answered if you just read this document, this page of FAQ. It's a very useful play. It's very smart. It's very smart. I want to go to the toy store FAQ Schwartz. Okay, so that was the first form of FAQ, but what we have a second form? What is this one going to be? Ha! The second form of FAQ is an abbreviation for fair average quality. Seems a little redundant. Fair average quality. The quality of that thing is fair, and it's average, so it's fair average. It's right in the middle. It's not great, and it's not terrible. It's right there in the middle. This podcast is proud to have FAQ. Ah! The next word is far. My sound effect is so far away. This is an adverb from before the 12th century, and there's some other forms. You could say farther, further, farthest, or furthest. Those are all fine. Number 1, at or to a considerable distance in space, as in wandered far from home. Anytime I see this word far, right now I'm thinking of that Sesame Street thing about near and far. And I believe there was some comedy show that spoofed that. What show was that? Maybe more than one have spoofed it. I don't remember what it was. I feel like it was one of those sketch shows like Kids in the Hall or something like that. I can't remember. So, wandered far from home. So far away in space, way over there. Number 2A is to a great extent, and the synonym is much, as in far better methods. There are much better methods than listening to somebody read the dictionary to learn your stuff. To a great extent, far better methods. Those methods are so far away over there, I can't see them. Number 2B, by a broad interval. The synonym is widely, as in the far distant future. What the widely to a broad interval? I'm trying to really think about how that's being used in this context specifically. It's widely distant future. It's just far. So it's not physically far in space. It's not physically. It's far in time. Out there in time. What is time? There's just the now. Does the future exist at all? I don't know. In the far distant future, maybe your fantasy will come true. 3, to or at a definite distance, point, or degree, as in, as far as I know, as far as I know, I to definite distance, point, or degree. As far as I know, how do you come up with this definition based on this example? And I'm trying to just sort of reword it in a way in my brain to combine the two of them together. As far as I know, to the degree that I know, as far as I know, I believe I know this to a certain degree, and that's as much information as I have. Okay, that was fine. There's other examples, I guess. Number 4. To an advanced point or extent, as in a bright student will go far. They will go to an advanced point. They will learn and learn and learn. Right now, they're at this point. It's an elementary point. It's an beginner's point. But then eventually, they will go to an advanced point, and they will go far in life. Also, as in worked far into the night. So far into the darkness. That is an advanced point or time out there. I can't see that far. Number 5, at a considerable distance in time. So why the far distant future? Why didn't we have that example here? This example is not far from the year 1870. Okay, again, I don't really care for the examples that have the word not in them or a negative word because it makes everything opposite, and it's kind of funny to me. Not far from the year 1870. Well, right now, I am in the year 2024, and I believe that I am far from the year 1870. It's 154 years. That is a very far distance in time. But is it? No, it's not. The universe started billions of years ago. 154 years is nothing. But what is something? Is there anything? Was there time before that? What is time? I don't think it exists. We have a bunch of phrases for the word far. The first one, by far. This is far and away. So far and away is by far. Okay. As in the example, is by far the best runner. Maybe they ran far and away. That's why they are by far the best runner. Nobody is even close to them. All the competitors are far and so far away from them. That's why they are by far the best runner. The next one is far be it from. Far be it from. And that means it would be inappropriate or impossible for. We need a little bit more context. So we have an example which says, far be it from me to complain. It would be inappropriate or impossible for me to complain. I should not be complaining about that whatsoever. Far be it from me to complain about life, because I personally am very lucky, but there are a lot of people out there who are not. So it would be inappropriate for me to be complaining about the state of certain things. Although I do like to complain, but I should not. Far be it from me to complain. Next one is far from. This means of a distinctly different and especially opposite quality than a thing, whatever it is that we're talking about. The example is the trip was far from a failure. Oh, good. That means it was a success. It was by far, pulling in another one of our phrases, by far a success. Different, opposite quality than the other thing. Okay, great. How far? How far? This means to what extent, degree, or distance, as in, didn't know how far to trust them. I can only trust them as far as I can throw them, and I can't throw them very far, so I cannot trust them. To what extent, degree, or distance? Didn't know how far to trust them. I could trust them a little bit, but what degree? I'm still trying to figure that out. So far. Number 1 for so far. To a certain extent, degree, or distance. You can see a little bit of a pattern here. Don't you see this? As in, when the water rose so far, we fled. We got the hell out of there because we didn't want the water to go up to our nose, and then we would be breathing in water. Number 2 for so far. Up to the present. The example is, has written 1 novel so far. Oh, that means they got another novel coming. Up till now. So far. We do have one more little one at the end. Thus far. And this means so far. As in, thus far, the results are negative. It's the same thing. Feels like an older way to say that. Up until now, the results are negative, but wait a little bit longer. Further in the future, maybe the results will be positive. Whew, that was a lot of stuff for far. Okay, the etymology says this is from the Middle English, fair, from Old English, fjör, which is akin to the Old High German ferro, F-E-R-R-O, which means far. Also from Old English, again, faran, which means to go. Like, go far away because you smell so bad. And then there's also more at the word fair, F-A-R-E. But wait, there's more. It's not sold in any store. We have the second form of far, adjective from before the 12th century. Number 1A, remote in space. In space, you can't hear the screams far out there. 1B, distinctly different in quality or relationship. This doesn't have an example. Different in quality or relationship. So far relationship, I don't really know how to use this one. Number 1C, remote in time. Okay, we're seeing a bit of a repeat here from the adverb form, the first form, because this one, it's all related, but this one's the adjective. So you're describing a thing as far in time, remote in time. Let's see, a year from now is a far day. I don't know about that example. 2A, the synonym is long, as in a far journey. Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship, they made a very far journey, especially Frodo and Sam. Oh, they made a far journey. 2B, of notable extent. The synonym is comprehensive, as in a man of far vision. Of notable extent, comprehensive, he sees all the stuff. He can comprehend everything, I guess. Number 3, the more distant of two, as in the far end. The far end. Well, we got 2 ends. This one's close and that one's far. So it's the more distant of the 2. Number 4, the synonym is extreme, as in the far left. There's also the far right. They both are extreme. Personally, as a progressive person, I think the far right is much scarier than the far left. But extremes are not always great. But also here we have another example, a far-right political organization. I'm very glad that we're running down the middle of the road. We got both examples there. Okay. We only got one more word for this episode. It's the word far again, but it's all caps, so it's FAR, abbreviation for Federal Air Regulation. The federal government is regulating the stuff in the air. It's the group that does that. They are the FAR. All right, word of the episode. Word of the episode. Today we had fantasy land, fantoccini, fantod, fanvault, fanwise, fanzine, FAO, FAQ, FAQ, far, and FAR. Fantod was, I think that might be the runner-up, because that one was so interesting, was so much of it. The definitions, the etymology, how it came to be, that was a fascinating one. But I think I just have to pick fantoccini as the word of the episode for so many reasons. Number one, the word is great. Number two, it's puppets. Number three, I like puppets. And I think those are all the reasons. I want to see a fantoccini I want to see a fantoccini show. Please show me a show with the puppets. It's called fantoccini. I don't know what's happening. Yes, fantoccini show. It sounds fun. Okay. I will tell you about another movie that I watched. Oh, I looked this up before, and I'm glad that I did because I don't remember a lot of it. It's called In a Lonely Place. It's from 1950 with Humphrey Bogart and Gloria Graham, and I kind of remember it, but I don't really remember, like, how all it went. What happened in the story? How did it end? I don't remember. It's a beautiful black and white movie. Humphrey Bogart plays a famous screenwriter, a film screenwriter. So it's a little meta in that way. I do remember appreciating the statements on Hollywood and films and all that stuff. And then his neighbor, somebody dies, and he's a suspect. And his neighbor, I guess, clears him. But they have an interesting relationship, and anyway, I feel like it's maybe a movie that someday I will need to watch again because I don't remember how it ended, because my memory is terrible, and I'm probably having dementia. All right, that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for checking out this show. Please subscribe, rate and review, download, share, do all those things. Watch this on YouTube. Please and thank you. And until next time, this is Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye.